Hello, welcome to my story hour. I'm Catherine or Kathy Ramsperger. I'm a long journalist, a lifelong journalist, humanitarian, and author of two award-winning novels now, The Shores of Our Souls, and its standalone sequel, A Thousand Flying Things, which just came out last month. I'm also a coach who founded Ground One and created Step Into Your Story. That's a trademark process to help creatives remove blocks from their books, their art, their gifts, their lives, because life is a story. I'm here to connect people, both readers and writers who love books, and I welcome you. Thank you very much. So today's story hour is going to connect you a little bit more to my new release and to my characters, as it's my third in a series of online launches for this book. The pre-launch, I was honored to have the amazing multi-published, multi-award winning Kathleen M. Rogers interview me about the scope of my writing career in general. I've been writing for a very long time, since I was 16. And as you can probably tell, I'm a little bit older than 16. And then on the day my novel came out, the pulpwood queen herself drove from upstate Texas to southeast Texas, where it was hot, and her electricity was off. And somehow she got Wi-Fi and everything worked out. And all of the pulpwood queens and timber guys came to celebrate with me. And now I am going to mainly concentrate on reading passages from A Thousand Flying Things, and to talk a little bit about my characters' backstories. So keep checking this page to see where I'll be next. This is the last of the online launches. You can find it in the archives of Facebook and YouTube, but you won't get me live after this talking about this book for a while. But see where I am. Look on my page and see where I'm going to be. I might be in your town, and we might be able to see each other face to face. Here's what to expect in today's live a little bit more. Right over with that. I'm going to tell you a little bit about my second novel. I'm going to start by reading some backstory, which I hope to someday make into a novella about my protagonist, Diana. And there's a lot in Kasim's point of view about his backstory in The Shores of Our Souls. There isn't as much about Diana. And I'd written it, but I took it out. And now I'd like to share just a tiny bit of her very young years with you. She's the eldest in a military family, but she's only 4 in this first chapter. And then after I read this, I will read from my newest, A Thousand Flying Things. The passage is when Diana meets Khalil in southern Sudan. It's called Southern Sudan in the 90s, and now it has gained its independence and is called South Sudan through much brutal civil war. And then if we still have time, I'll read just a little bit about Kasim's childhood. And I hope with this composite, you'll get a little bit of my voice. You'll get a little bit about the characters that you'll be reading about. And I hope that my selections will help you see why Kasim's and Diana's childhoods, even though they grow up on different continents in different times, he's a little bit older than she is, and in completely different circumstances, why their childhoods set them up first of all, to fall passionately in love, and then to trigger each other, which a lot of people who are passionately in love do. They both have conflict in their childhoods, but Diana has a sort of abandonment from her mother, and Kasim the same kind of abandonment from his father. Neither of these characters is happy, but Diana's mother acts out on it, and Kasim's father simply is invisible a lot of the times. He goes in his office and closes the door and sits in the dark working. So Kasim's trauma isn't as much as Diana's, but in terms of family dynamics, but his trauma is war. And you'll see the loss the war brought on him and his family from an early age in the short passage in Shores. So I'd like to invite you to comment or question or tell me what you think, voice your opinions. I write to start a conversation. I'd love to have one. I'll be taking short breaks in between the readings. And with no further ado, I will start. So this is the beginnings of a novella about my protagonist, Diana. She's 4 years old. She is living in Arizona near a military base. It's called Basic Training. Her dad is in the Air Force, and it's 1961. Diana looks up straight into the sun, full, high, orange, burning overhead. She sits on her tricycle, blue, even though her favorite color is red. Blue is her mother's favorite color. Even so, she loves that tricycle, and she loves the sun. They seem like tickets, like those tickets they have at the play train at the park. Only these tickets give her more than a ride. They give her freedom. The wheels squeak as she drives up and down the short concrete driveway. She has to be careful about the dip at the end that causes her wheels to tip sometimes. She turned over last weekend when her father was supposed to be watching her, and that led to another fight. Maybe if she's extra careful and never falls again, her parents will stop fighting. All the driveways are short in this military neighborhood, and all the houses look the same. Brick, white shutters, 2 bedrooms and a bath in back, living room and kitchen in front. The Callaways have a carport. She's been in a lot of these houses in the neighborhood, and it's just like being in her own house, only with different furniture. One house has really bright furniture, though, and it makes a little bit of difference. Not enough, though. That's her friend Carol's house. Yet most days, Diana is out on her driveway, riding her tricycle. She's already getting a little tall for it, but that doesn't matter. She's happy outside, moving. Her auntie, Mamie, never fails to comment on that. One time, her auntie told her mother to put Diana on a leash. At least you can keep track of her, Louise, Auntie Mamie, who is her grand's oldest sister, suggested behind a cupped hand, though her suggestions usually sounded like orders. Her mother seemed to consider the pros and cons of leashes. Where does one find a human leash, she asks, one eyebrow up, the other crinkled down low. Diana ran away to roll on the neighbor's hill. Don't let your father see you do that, Auntie Mamie yelled after her. He'll spank your little hide raw. Diana stopped. She came back and sat down on the opposite side of the porch, crisscross applesauce. Diana, no young lady sits like that. Louise shook a finger at her. You're wearing your church dress. It was a pretty dress, even though it was blue and a hand-me-down from her cousin. It had crewel and embroidery all the way from the bottom to the top, a sash and a petticoat. The problem was Diana couldn't please her mother anytime she sat, no matter how she sat or where she sat. She'd been yelling at Diana about sitting since this morning at church. Diana closes her eyes and sees herself in church again. Mama, who has a baby in her belly, is sitting beside her and on the pew. She's wedged between her parents. They couldn't get their normal pew because they were late, because Diana couldn't get her tights on straight. Her mother yelled at her, good for that. Diana wonders how a baby can still grow in her mother. There doesn't seem to be any room left. It is warm this morning, and the breeze filters in on the opposite side of the church. A bead of sweat runs down her mother's crown all the way to the nape of her long, long neck. Her makeup looks sticky. Diana begins to fidget. Mama grabs her wrist and digs her long nails into it. Diana jumps, then slides as far down the pew as she can without touching the old man at the other end of it. She's afraid if she touches him, he'll turn her skin all wrinkly like his. He glares over his glasses at her. Diana concentrates on the stained glass window in the front of the sanctuary. A calm Jesus smiles down at the congregation. Blood trickles from his two hands that have nails stuck right through them. Diana wonders how he can be smiling. His hands must be numb, or maybe he's already dead. She's seen her grandmother's other sister, Auntie Polly, after she died, and she was smiling, though she hadn't looked as calm as Jesus. Her mother's fingernails interrupt her thoughts again. This time they dig into her shoulder. That is not the way young ladies should sit. Her mother's voice is a whisper, but her tone is a shout. Diana gazes down at her own hands, which are pushing the middle of her skirt and petticoat into the pew. Her legs are far apart, but not that far apart. Nobody can see her underwear, not even the tip of her petticoat. But she begins, but her mother's glare, chopping off the rest of her sentence. Mama adjusts Diana's hair bow, then checks the top of her own hat to ensure it's in place. They stand to sing Onward, Christian Soldiers. Diana doesn't know the words, but it's a catchy tune. After church, they visit Auntie's house, as usual. Mama sits there like the upside of an open umbrella. Her stomach is so big, Diana can barely see her face. Maybe she'll get a leash for Diana if she gets any bigger. She hopes she'll have that baby soon. She has only 2 dresses that fit anymore. They're both black, and they look a little like the one the Virgin Mary wore when she found out she was going to have Jesus, only hers was white and shiny with light. Maybe these pregnant dresses can't be changed. Maybe they'd made that law back in Jesus' day. She's glad when they leave and glad it is Sunday, so they can't go shopping for a leash. Now she's back riding her tricycle, happy because the sun still shines bright, which means it will be summer for a while longer. The sun makes her happy. Her trike makes her happy. The only time she's happier is when she hides under the house and goes through her secret stash. Daddy gave her a cigar box with some kind of African prints on the cover. So far, she's collected a button that fell off her sweater, a rusty penny she found that must be about 100 years old because it doesn't have Abe Lincoln on it at all, a stick she uses to coax doodlebugs out of their holes, and a beautiful, smooth, whitish tan stone that must be from the ocean, though she doesn't know what ocean stones look like. She's never seen the ocean, but she's heard it smooths things out, kind of like an iron gets the wrinkles out of clothes. Dinah doesn't know how the ocean smooths things out, though she can see the iron at work. It must have something to do with the waves. Someday, Daddy says, someday. Creak, creak, creak go her pedals. Creak, creak, creak go the wheels. It is a comforting sound like waves would be if she ever got to hear them. Someday, Daddy says. She knows what waves sound like already. Her uncle let her hear a part of the ocean captured inside a big shell. So she knows it is soft and has a special chant, better than a hymn, because you don't have to worry about the words, just the rhythm and the tune. She wheels up and down the driveway. She can feel her parents' eyes on her as they sit on the sofa with serious faces. Please don't let them be fighting again. She's been real careful. Just then, her father looks up and catches her eye. He waves at her, and her mother turns around and waves too. She can tell she's taken her hand off her belly to lift it. And hello, Mama's been saying she's having tractions, that the baby will be here soon. Guess they aren't fighting after all. Guess it's just the tractions. The sun is a fiery, comfortable cough drop in the sky, and she's feeling lazy, tired, ready to lie down. She looks up one more time into the window, and Daddy isn't there anymore. Then her father is calling her, telling her she must go next door to her neighbors, that they have to go to the hospital now. So thank you for listening to that. I'm going to check Facebook for comments in just a little bit, but I wanted to say, look what I'm wearing. I'm wearing kind of an African necklace. I have two African necklaces that I got, one in Nairobi and one from Addis. And here is my flying thing on my shirt. And you see, in celebration of my book, I have all my flying things behind me. My lucky bluebird, my candle that a friend sent me in celebration of the book publishing. And I'll take this one down. My hair in origami. And of course, my book itself with the heron and the plane. I'm so proud of that cover. So let me check Facebook for your comments, see if there are any. If not, I'll just keep reading because I have plenty to take up the time with or without comments. I know a lot of people watch these things on replay. Where did it go? Where did it go? There it is. Oh, thank you, Kathleen. Kathleen's here. She says, excellent reading, such a moving scene. I knew you'd relate to that scene, Kathleen. And when she came in, she said, I'm looking good. I'm going to wear this to all of my launches from here on out. It's my Flying Things tunic. And she says, so nice of you to mention me. Of course. I just adore you and I adore all of your writing. And thank you so much for being here with me today. So now I will read from 1,000 Flying Things. I'm going to read the back cover because I talk about this book a lot, but I never read the synopsis on the back itself. And I think it's pretty good. And I will read a couple of other things as well. So here's the cover. I'll hold up the cover as I read it. A love lost, a soul restored, a decade of secrets and separation. It takes a child to lead them home. American Diana Calloway is committed to educating children in the thick of war-ravaged 1990s Southern Sudan, hampered by disease, a corrupt government, and a warlord who is harboring a mysterious young boy. Diana's passionate calling to help others in a dangerous country is only complicated by the chance meeting of a long-lost love. And for those of you who've read Shores or know of Shores, Yes, it is Kasim. Will they make it this time is the question. Faced with the choice to pursue integrity and justice or reconnect with the man she still holds dear, Diana must make the most difficult decision of her life. Or must she? For things are not what they seem. So the reason I chose 1,000 Flying Things for my title, along with the symbols on the cover, are because there is an American proverb, better a bird in the hand than 1,000 flying things. And the Sudanese version of that is better a bird in the hand than 1,000 flying things. And to me, those flying things are choices we have in life, choices we must make. And we think we have to make all of the choices and all of the choices at once. And I've learned through the years and also from being a coach that even if we do choose all the choices, we don't have to do it all at once. So that's a little bit behind the cover and the title. And I'm really honored to have people like Kathleen do early reviews of my book, and Johnny Bernhard and Mickey Bertolo-Morency, Claire Fullerton, Rob Sanborn, and Megan Holt. And those of you who know One Book New Orleans know of Megan. So proud of those. I'm going to read you Cindy Williams because most of you know who Cindy Williams, the late Cindy Williams, unfortunately was. And she sums it all up in a very succinct sentence. Beautifully written, a joy to read, and highly entertaining in the most wonderful way possible. Catherine, quite simply, has written a great novel. So that is the late Cindy Williams. It was one of the very last books she read, I suppose, and she insisted on reading it, which also made me feel so honored. Cindy Williams of Laverne and Shirley. And she also wrote her own book, author of Shirley, I Jest. So now I will read from the book. Diana's teaching displaced children, orphans, abandoned children who she believes might be being trained as child soldiers. But she doesn't know that until she gets there. She's teaching them to read. And the difficult thing is that she's teaching them to read not in their tribal language, not in the language of the country, not in Arabic, but in English. And they have too much to think about otherwise to be focused. So she's giving them treats and they still won't listen. And so she says school's over for the day. School is over for her as much as for them. They've been here almost an hour. She slams the book shut and drops it with a thud on her crates. After class, the boys play football with an ancient deflated soccer ball. They use tent poles as goal posts, and the younger boys as goalies. She brings her Polaroid camera out. The boys drop their football and race toward this contraption, a camera from her past, but an object these boys have never seen. The resulting yellow, blurred images create quite a stir in this little camp. The children love to see themselves. They delight in making faces for the camera. They even primp sometimes, hoping she will choose to snap one of them. It is more than a conversation starter. It is a showstopper, marketing her words with their pictures. Would words ever mean as much to these boys as they did to Diana? Would they lay down their rifles to turn to the pages of the books she provided? Her mind pushes against the languid heat that presses her into the earth, and her lungs try to take in more air. The smell of overused cooking oil, reminiscent of the many meals fried in it, cuts the air like a scythe. She longs for just one ice cube. That is when she sees a young child's hand. The hand waves at her from behind a large nearby rock. Flat on top, nature's idea of a throne, the stone hides the rest of the child's body. The hand itself, though, is a work of art. It is a hand a hyena could tear off with one swift chomp. Tiny, ragged fingernails, dirt caked over hidden fingerprints, flies buzzing this way and that. Yet the wrist is another thing altogether, smooth and shiny and strong. She takes up her Polaroid and begins snapping. The shutter clicks, and the photos whirl out until the film is gone. They fall at her feet, creating a small dust storm. The specks float suspended in the air, then rest one by one on the photos. She wants to wash the boy's hands to see what lies beneath this grime. So she walks around the rock, obscuring the body that owns this miniature man's hand. It's the boy from this morning. Hello? She wonders if he will understand. Hey, he answers. How does he know that word? Most boys know hi or hello, but seldom use it because she greets them in their own language. And this boy looks barely old enough to speak many words at all. I teach myself book, the boy smiles. You help? Do you speak English? Diana fumbles in a mixture of English, Arabic, and Dinka. English. The little boy smiles again, attempting to mimic her sounds. Then he slaps her hand with his, reaches in her pocket, finds an English tea biscuit, and pops it whole into his mouth. Tink. Dinah laughs at the mispronunciation, wondering how long it took him to learn the sentence he greeted her with. Her heart is in her ears. She may have found her student. Name, she asks. Ani, he answers. She laughs again, this time her broad, imp-like Diana laugh, a laugh she barely recollects after 10 years in the field. No, that's my name. I'm Diana. Her fingers point to her chest, correcting him, showing him that this is how to pronounce her name. Diana. His beautiful muddy palm slips around them. You? She points at his chest. Khalil, he answers, sounding it out as she just did for him. She does not know if both words form his name, whether it is a variation of newer pronoun or whether he has made it up himself. You mean this name? She writes it out for him in the sand, and he nods. He giggles. His broad smile, still with his baby teeth, makes her want to hug him, but she doesn't. They walk hand in hand toward the canopy. They plop onto the ground, and he curls his elbow into her lap. Polaroid pictures look up at them through the earth like a faded carpet. Khalil puts up his image and squints. Khalil, he asks. Khalil. Diana puts away her camera, smiling at his realization that he is the subject of the photograph. She chooses a book from a nearby stack, opens it to page 1, and begins to read. I think that's enough for today. So that's a little taste of 1,000 Flying Things. Thanks for listening to that. And let's see if we have more questions. And I think we do have a little bit of time for me to read from The Shores of Our Souls. It's a much shorter passage. I definitely do, because I think you're all out and about enjoying this beautiful hot weather, or maybe you're reading a book. Now here's Lovelace, and Lovelace says, "Thank you, Kathy." You're welcome, Lovelace. I'm not certain what you're thanking me for, but I'm so glad to have you here. I'm wondering how your humanitarian work's going. Let me know. Okay, so this is from his backstory, and it is in his point of view. It's a flashback. It's 1940 something, and he's very young, and he's about to experience his first Ramadan, and war breaks out. This is all true, actually. It did start at this point. My mother tells me we are at war, in quotes. I am uncertain what that means. I wait to see bombers flying overhead, the ones I've seen on the Allies' newsreels. The only different thing I can see is that we turn off all our lights at night. Sometimes they go out all by themselves. Sometimes Hanifa goes around stuffing them. Hanifa is his nanny. My brothers and I hide to frighten each other, sending delicious, blood-curdling screams down the hallways. Hours pass, days pass, and still not one bomber overhead. I go out on my balcony first thing after waking and before prayers at dusk, and then again right before I climb into bed. Yet I hear nothing save the calls of the night birds. I see nothing save the twinkling lights of ships loading from the port. This is in Beirut. And Beirut is a port. The same stars send out their constant light. The same cobalt sky canopies our garden. Then one morning, a week after my mother has made the pronouncement of war, I amble into the kitchen to find her sobbing. Her head rests in her delicate palms. Her elbows rest on the long, marred table that Hanifa also uses as a cutting board. Her tears flow out of the corners of her big, dark eyes, hanging for a moment on her lashes, then drop to the mosaic tile below. I notice they create a crescent pattern. Well, almost a crescent. Each tear improperly formed, asymmetrical, not closed like a true crescent, as though someone has taken a bite from its tip, as I do from my crescent roll, strolling home from the boulangerie, hoping not to get a scolding, but savoring the fresh butter taste on my tongue. I snap myself out of my reverie, both fascinated and shaken by this unusual scene. I have never seen my mother weep. I did not even know she could. What is it, Mama? I go to her and run my fingers up her arm. She'd normally brush me away, but for now, she lets my hand linger. She does lift her head and wipe her eyes, which still overflow with unshed feeling. Then a long moment later, she caresses my cheek, turns her head, and rises. This is your last chance to eat an early breakfast. Dawn is almost upon us. I had forgotten it was the first day of Ramadan. This is the first year that I am to fast, about which I am of two minds. I am flushed with pride to be mature enough to pay proper homage to God, but I am worried my stomach will get the best of me. It is strange to eat breakfast before getting dressed, but I consent. But Mama, I persist as I begin spooning my yogurt and honey. Why were you weeping? Is it to do with the war? In a way, Habibi, she says and touches my cheek. I love when she does that, and it is not enough these days. She turns away from me, chopping vegetables, a task reserved for Hanifa, except at Ramadan. But it does not seem as though we are at war, I wonder aloud, while I sip my yogurt. Do not slurp, Cassim. My mother scolds as she chops. We are part of the Arab world, and the Arabs are at war. With whom? It is very complex, my mother frowns. I wonder if she understands and is trying to explain, or if she herself does not understand the reason for this invisible violence. Then she continues, and I see that she does understand. It has to do with land that someone once had and lost and then wanted back. But now someone else owns the land and they are being chased off of it. What if soldiers arrive at our door, order us out of our house, out of the light-filled rooms, the mosaic tile floor kitchen with pots and herbs hanging, the dark wood of my father's study, the shutters that open into the balcony from my bedroom, the fig trees and jasmine in the garden? Will they take our playthings? Will we be forced to leave them behind? So then he goes on to talk a little bit about the politics of things and refugees. And then he says, then why are you crying? Lebanon is not at war. I flick a crumb onto the floor and she slaps my hand, diverting my attention. But then my eyes come back to meet hers again. She still hesitates. Yes, she admits finally. Yes, Lebanon, Syria, Transjordan, and Egypt attacked this place, what they call Israel. I must still look unsure because she continues, finally explaining something I understand. I am worried we will not be able to procure your sister's medications. I gasp. She must have her medicine. She may die without her medicine. Do not worry, Habibi. It is far away from us, and that is where it will stay. Then, inshallah, God willing, I hear her mumble under her breath. Israel, I question? Where is Israel? Haifa is right across the border. You know that. That is Palestine. The Jews have authority there now. She ruffles my hair. Children have no need to know about this. The war will not come here, I promise. I need to find a way to get Layla's medicines, though. She picks up the herbs she's been chopping and stores them. I can't imagine having to leave my home ever. If Islam means peace, why must we fight? Why must we ever fight? So that is kind of how war affects all families in a region. And I wanted to share that with you. I am going to look for your questions and comments, but I also appreciate your just listening to me read. I think that it's very uncommon that people get to hear the reading. And Lovelace says that she loved my back cover reading. Thank you, Lovelace. Thank you, Lovelace, and thank you, Kathleen, for being here live. And I'm going to keep this short now. I think I've read enough. Thank you if you're watching this on replay. It's an amazing thing to be able to launch this book. Those of you who know me know it's taken a long time for both books and a long time between books. And I am just so grateful, so grateful. And Lovelace says, lovely and profound reading, Kathy. It's wonderful to hear you reading. That's what I was going to say. I don't think readers get to hear us read enough. And I am going to add a 5-minute reading to my story hours from now on. It may cut down on questions, but I think it'll all work out in the end because we don't have as many people able to watch these live right now. So I won't have to go back and forth to Facebook, which also takes up time. And I look forward to both of you again on Facebook. So that's about it for now. Thank you so much. And I always have my tea bag wisdom at the end of every show. It's a little short today, but that's all good. Oh, that's not it. That's my other one. I haven't done my tea for today, if you can tell. It's my used one from yesterday. Ah, yes. So this one says, live light, travel light, spread the light, be the light. I think I've had that once before. I love that one. And I love that I'm able to share that kind of light with all of you through this amazing technology. And I'm looking forward to seeing you all again soon. And in particular, my live guests, Kathleen M. Rogers and Lovelace Cook. So in closing, you can join me here every third Thursday at my Facebook page. This one and last month's were a bit of an anomaly. It was all about me. And I go back to asking the questions in the next interview. They're all archived on Facebook, and this one, along with many others, will be on YouTube early next week. You can find out more about me at katherinebrownramsperger.com or ground1coaching.com. And here on Story Hour, as you may know, I concentrate on transformational stories of international interest, multicultural relations, and social issues. And always, always, all my work focuses on the connection between people and cultures and continents. So I do hope you can join me in the future, and please subscribe to me on YouTube if you haven't, or subscribe to my newsletter to find out where I'm going to be, and many other things. There's a cookbook, a free cookbook that you can get by subscribing. You can sign up for it all at katherinebrownramsperger.com. My books are available at most online retailers, from Amazon to Barnes & Noble to bookshop.org. And if it's not in a bookstore, you can order it. Yes, I support all indie bookstores, and I hope to be at a few very soon. And book clubs. I'm happy to come to book clubs, and I just have a new feature on my website. And if you hit the contact tab, you'll see media and book clubs. That's not the new feature. I have a list of almost 20 questions for book club discussion for the second book. Next month, I'll be chatting with Rebecca Copeland. She's the author of The Kimono Tattoo. Her novel takes place in Japan. It's told from an American point of view, from someone who's lived there quite some time. It's a great mystery story that involves kimonos, tattoos, and many other parts of Japanese culture and history. So please join us if you can, or subscribe or watch. And I think that's it for me. Thanks for another great year. I am so happy to have Story Hour for you. Hope you're having a great summer with lots of absorbing books to read. Please consider mine as one. I would very much appreciate it. You have a great summer. Bye for now.